What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the XRP price chart along with the Bitcoin price chart and whether or not if what we saw last night was good enough to mark the bottom. Bitcoin reached as low as 76,600, where, XRP went ahead and set a new low over here below $1.95, hitting as low as $1.89, now back to $2.14. Of course, things have been very chaotic over there in the United States stock market, with the Dow Jones closing down 890 points, the S&P down 155, and the Nasdaq 770 yesterday. Of course, there's a whirlwind of emotions out there on social media and narratives and justifications and reasons why for all these things happening. Everybody trying to create some type of story to go along with it. So in this video, we're going to spend some time talking about the XRP price chart, the complications of what we have going on here, the complications of setting that low there that spent about an hour below $1.95, where we'd really need to get to in order to kind of negate some of those concerns. We'll talk about Bitcoin, hate it or love it. It's an important part of the puzzle on what happens here in the market. Was that low good enough? I wrote a tweet yesterday. Bitcoin's likely in capitulation. The key initial levels are the 50-week moving average, which is 75,400, the previous March of 2024 high, which is 73,800, and the reactions of fibs point to approximately 76,200. Well, looking a little bit closer, we got about 1% or 0.5% away from it, just a mere couple $100, and then price is now ricocheted over $5,000 away from it. So there seems to be the reasonable potential that that was actually the low. Price has moved pretty orderly when it comes to looking at Fibonacci retracement levels and where the breakdown really started from. We actually saw this happen with the altcoin market back in 2022 through 2024, as our actual breakdown that started in April of 2022 started right from the fibs and then all the way right back. Then the additional reactions that have happened on the fib levels all the way along the way, excluding the fake pump and dump that happened back there on Sunday, March 2nd. Otherwise, it's a pretty decent reaction that's already showing up there. Likely for Bitcoin, it's a similar story of what I just briefly mentioned over there on XRP. You're probably going to want to see these levels get taken out, this $86,000 level in here, to feel more confident there's not a wick to just come back down there and get it. Otherwise, an orderly march up happening in here would probably then lead to consolidation to then try to reverse, which of course, then the crowd comes in, they all see it, they scream, we've reversed, and then we're kind of having to be like, all right, well, there's a little bit of worry happening in here at this point now. However, that's a long ways away from right now. First initial steps are just to continue seeing this march up continue to happen in here for Bitcoin, with likely seeing some support show up in here in equities. So for the Russell 2000, we've definitely gone as far as we would ever need to go. You do have waves of complete equal length that have played out throughout here. You have completely backtested the entire breakout level that happened back in December of 2023, early 2024. There's just no reason to go any further without screaming, the sky is falling at this point. So to hit that level there for the Russell 2000, while Bitcoin's getting down into these levels, a little bit of confluence happening in there. We'll see if we can actually get a real reaction coming out of stocks today. So when it comes to capitulation for Bitcoin, got relatively close to that 76,200 at 76,600, that 73.8 and that 75.4. That's going to be the 50-week moving average right there at now 75.5, and this March high over here at 73.8. However, okay reaction so far after getting within just a couple $100 of it and now bouncing back up over 5,000. Also, structurally, when these things play out like this is typically how they go. You'll get back down to the floor, hold on top of the floor, break it down with a throwback, and that's your final push, and then prices will pull back up. One thing I did find fascinating last night when that happened is that you can see that Cardano actually ended up closing the whole Trump pump once that price finally got hit. So there was a confluence of that occurring there for Cardano at the same time as it was happening for Bitcoin. Now the rest of this discussion is going to primarily focus on the XRP price chart. And if you tuned in for XRP, you're like, well, why do we have to talk about Cardano and Bitcoin and the stock market? It's because it's all one big giant picture, right? XRP has not moved down independently. It has moved down with events going on throughout the rest of the market. This whole structure that has happened right in here for XRP is the exact same structure that Cardano has done right here. The difference is Cardano comes down and closes the Trump pump, whereas XRP goes and sets this new low. So if we were looking at Cardano, we'd be saying, oh, well, no new lows. Excellent. We just capitulated on Bitcoin and everything is fine. But XRP, we've got a new low. Now we have more complications to add to this thing, on top of the complications of already having this thing sitting here on the chart, which otherwise shouldn't be there. Now, zooming out on the past 4 months, the first thing to observe is, of course, that this is one big giant range. So it still is range bound. While it does set this low below here, it still is technically range bound. The issue for me is that I still would think we would just continue building higher lows coming throughout here, rather than setting a new low. An example of that would just be kind of like a range development like this, where really everything's fine, breaks out fine, it slams back down, no big deal. Ricochets off the low, and then eventually it comes back in, no problem, right? Price is operating just fine, no big deal. Then, we're met with the big fake Trump pump that comes up in here, sends prices ricocheting to what prices likely probably would not have hit. Now we've come back down and ricocheted back down to the downside, whereas thoughts would likely be that it would probably just be a continued gradual climb of higher lows to eventually work our way on out of here. So there's definitely a level of uncomfortability on seeing that occur in there. Again, you would think prices would just continue meandering, continuing to hold higher lows. Now there becomes this big threat of it being a breakdown. Again, the whole range is still intact, but it does pose this complication similarly to this whole complication. So there's a certain level of caution here living in this exact moment. Now we can look at past range developments for XRP on recoveries in bull markets for XRP. In the midst of the run-up for XRP back in 2017, it was met with this 60%, 64% wash to the downside that eventually had to range itself out before then continuing. You can see prices ricocheted off the lows as we have back in here, back in 2025, eventually shifting down, rolling back up, and then eventually this low does get breached, right? The obvious observation in here is you don't have a Trump pump wick happening in here, and this is much more drawn out than the amount of time in here. I'll get these off of here, but assuming you were in that far into range development, what would be the events that we just witnessed? Well, like we just talked about on Bitcoin and on XRP earlier in the video, there's the breakdown, the throwback, right? The breakdown, the throwback, that we would likely need to see prices get up in here about $2.50 to start laying down any type of worry that this was some type of structural break happening for XRP. Even if price got to 250, hey, it could do a pullback all the way down, to 220. It wouldn't be an issue, but likely needing some type of familiarity in here to remove concerns that this Trump pump was a thing of euphoria back into retracement levels that's ultimately leading to some type of breakdown, right? But I think there is a level of caution that has to reside there until something can be proven that there's some type of structural familiarity happening here with the XRP price chart, considering we set the new low. The thing we brought things up earlier when it comes to things like Cardano or like with Bitcoin is to say, can we see something in the market giving us a clue that things could be reversing? Here are some price levels of interest where they could potentially happen at. Here's how close we got to it. Here's the reaction that we've seen out of it. Here's what we'd like to see. There's a confluence hit for things like Cardano. And again, if this is what XRP looked like and we had this happening right here, we would just not even be having this conversation about XRP, about this lower low and being like, ugh. We'd be like, yay, perfect nail. And so it's not like we don't have some of those things in the market. So we point to the Russell. It's like, all right, you're at a level where you could bounce. You look at Bitcoin. All right, you're at a level where you could bounce. Cardano. All right, you've hit like a perfect knockback of the Trump pump. All right, XRP, can you do this in a range? Yes, you can. But again, we have to go with that same stuff of negating it and saying that didn't happen. And that otherwise you probably would have peaked out right there. And that what you would hope is that this was actually the capitulation moment for Bitcoin. That was as far as it was going to go. That's a liquidity grab to go grab it below the low. Now trying to see prices do a recovery to get into levels where the concern of this being like an ABC breakdown can be removed, right? Looking at Cardano, you wouldn't be worrying about that. You would say these are perfect, right? It gets to the support, breaks it, throws it back. That's the final push. It's just waddling up, just like we're talking about. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about ABC breakdown happening in here for Cardano. So there's something to look throughout the market to say, hey, it's not happening. everywhere. I mean, it's happening in some places. There's stuff that is very weak out here in the market right now. This is a very, very mixed market. But XRP has been like literally the strongest out of all of them. And it's attacked the most because you could pick almost any moment in time over the last 5 years, and it has outperformed Bitcoin. We can really pick all different types of time places to see that XRP has been outperforming it going on years. And we can go back since the FTX collapse, right? 2.5 years ago, XRP has been a better performer than Bitcoin. Go to November of 2021, go to the peak of the market of the last cycle, right? XRP has outperformed Bitcoin. Since the SEC lawsuit, Bitcoin's up 182% versus XRP at 900%, right? So it's been one of the absolute strongest assets in the market. And it's, of course, the target of everybody to talk about. The thing is still range bound at this moment. Just the thing is, we've obviously been hit with a whirlwind of activity here in these last week and a half, really, when it comes from Trump, stock market action. And it's definitely making my world a headache. And I sympathize with everybody who's having a emotionally difficult time with all of this, because it was unquestionably an emotional disappointment for this thing right in here. One day we're thinking that we're in a crypto reserve where XRP is named number one and Bitcoin and Ethereum are named as an afterthought about it. To the next, we're not. That event alone is enough to cause, emotional turmoil, and then prices pull down. So don't think that I'm not disappointed with a lot of you guys. Over 1/3 of my entire net worth is in XRP. I'm right in there, right along with everybody else. But right now, there are some complications that have happened here by setting that new low. And what are the things that we would look for to say, hey, maybe that's negated? And that would be if we can get a recovery to show up in here that shows familiarity of what recoveries do look like, which would be price getting closer to about $2.50. Otherwise, there's a level of caution in here. Going below $1.90 again, probably not a good sign. If we could see Bitcoin get back up to $87,000, $88,000, that really brings down that wall of worry that was probably a good enough right there for the capitulation to be completed. Same thing goes with equities. So really, this next day or two is probably going to be pretty important to see how equities respond now that the Russell has gotten back down to the breakout level, how Bitcoin responds here in the coming days, and that we likely do not want to see price meaningfully leave that range. Well, I mean, unless, of course, if it wants to go that way, but a little bit of caution in here. Ideas that I've had for what we've been doing here for XRP, of course, have been just in absolute turmoil ever since we've had this action happen over here from the Trump pump. Things really moving pretty orderly in here, but things have now obviously become pretty chaotic. So right now I have to remain in a state of caution. There could still be some more chop around in here, but if prices finally get their way up into the 230s and then into the 250s, it becomes pretty clear, like, there's just absolutely no reason to be going below $1.90, $1.92. What did it get to? $1.89. Based on any type of anything we can pull out of our hat. Because the big picture perspective is that this has been a crash, retrace, reaccumulation. It is very normal to have this ranging action happen here at the top. We've talked about this on the YouTube channel for 5 years at this point, and we've seen it in various places throughout markets. But we just shouldn't be breaking that range to the downside. So if there becomes a breakdown to the downside of that range, just massively complicated. And, one thing when we're talking about like equities bouncing and stuff like that, right? And everybody's got their reasoning and justification. Like, no, they're going to China. They hate America, blah, 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 right? Historically, in stock market breakdowns, what are things that are happening, right? The money is fleeing to go into the dollar, right? When the market peaked back in 2021, right? And then it broke down into the bear of 2022. Where, you have the Dow Jones Industrial Average heading down. What do we have? We have the dollar rising. People are flocking to the dollar, right? Right. That's just not the case of what's happening here with this move. So people are panicked about equities selling off. Well, why is nobody flocking to the dollar? Oh, it's because of tariffs. Oh, it's because of this, because of that. We all have a narrative, but even short term, right? Even short term, you would expect to see a flock to the dollar. So today we'll look to see if we can finally get an equity bounce come out of there. Look for some more comfort to show up in here to say things are okay. First sign would be like 230. If we got to 230, I could tell you I would start being a little bit more optimistic. Right now, I have to remain like super cautious. If we got to 230, I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe there's a chance that things are turning around. If we got to 250, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I think we did it. Those things are same here on these various other charts. Same things for like Cardano too, right? Get back up into that breakdown level, and we start saying it looks like we were pretty good, because this is a very normal structural break. There was confluence there with Bitcoin, Cardano, and hopefully there with XRP. but we'll need to see throughout today to see that we don't just turn this baby around, but that there is some substance to this to be able to shift its way up. But just like how this whole thing provides a lot of complication here throughout the chart, now so does this one. And I really wish our chart just looked like Cardano and that all we had done is come back down here and just back tested this breakout, because we just wouldn't even be having this conversation. Literally, this entire video would be like, hey guys, guess what? Looks like Bitcoin got back down to where it should have. It's shown a really great response happening off of there. And we've bounced right off with Confluence at the exact same time, right? Like that would be like the tone of the video. But the chaos of all the things that have emerged in here, of course, are just constantly creating this washing machine action happen. So in order for me to feel more confident, I definitely want to see 230 at a minimum, but then 250. That's where I'm just kind of like, all right, I think we have weathered it. Otherwise, it's still just caution right now. So we'll check on it again tomorrow morning, and it's kind of just like every day of our lives being in the thick of it. So DXY is at 103.37. We'll see if we can get some response to come out of equities today, and that would likely translate over here into the cryptocurrency market. Try to give you guys various examples of things to show you how recoveries could happen. Thing is, you probably just don't want to see that $1.90 hit again, right? $1.89 is the bottom of the range. It's what the bottom of the range was 3 months ago. But now at this point, it's about recovery. Got to see it if we want to see this thing still just remain intact. So I'll check in with you guys tomorrow morning. Otherwise, till then, you can check out the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Comes with a 34-minute audio recording that I personally record. And of course, you get access to all the past ones. You're going to learn how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro right over here at bcbacker.com. There are links in the descriptions of all of my videos to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and to bcbacker.com. Otherwise, I will catch you guys tomorrow morning. But that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.